Readings of Almighty God's Words. Exposing Antichrists. Excursus 1. What the Truth Is. Never say die is something people say when they are directed by a satanic disposition, and it is a mentality the satanic world advocates. What do we see this mentality as? It is a way of thinking and a principle people have for living and doing things which is advocated by mentally ill people. It abets and motivates people to use any means possible to satisfy their own ambitions and desires. Never be discouraged, no matter the situation. Pursue things according to the principle. Stand your ground and never let go, and not analyze whether their desires and ambitions are proper or not. So long as they have this mentality, it is worthy of extolling. If a person researched something of benefit to humankind, never said die, was not discouraged by failure, kept developing in a positive direction, and kept researching so that people could live better lives in the future, then this would be somewhat commendable. However, is this the goal humankind pursues in this world? Who selflessly does things like this for the good of humanity? No one. Even if there are some people who outwardly do things under the banner of doing good for humanity, behind that, they are doing it for their own reputation and professional accomplishment, so their name will go down in history. These are their goals, and none of these goals are proper. Apart from these things, what does the never say die mentality direct people to do? First of all, the never say die mentality challenges people's limits and instincts. For example, on a sports field, a person does 3 flips in a row and his heart can't take it, and he says, "I never say die. I must challenge my limits and challenge the Guinness World Record. I will do 10 flips." As a result, when he does his 8th flip, he dies. What if he did not have this mentality motivating him to do this?
He would do it according to his abilities.
That's right. What does God require people to do? God requires people to live in normal humanity and permits people to have weakness. There is a limit to what people's physical instinct and organs can withstand. People should be clear on what level they can achieve. Was that person clear on the consequences of him doing 10 flips in a row? He was not clear on this, and he did it blindly and challenged his limits. So who was to blame for him dying?
He was to blame.
The source of that person trying to do 10 flips was that Satan was always motivating him, saying, "You must never say die." Giving up after 5 flips is pathetic. You have to do 8. He pondered. 8 isn't enough either. I'll do 10. As a result, after doing the 8th flip, his heart stopped beating and his breathing ceased. Wasn't he played by Satan? Of course, we are just using this as an example. There might be someone who can do 20 flips without a problem. When people have this never say die will to fight, they fight back and forth and end up throwing their life away. A slightly better scenario is if they just throw their life away, but have not done any evil. Then they may still have a chance of being reincarnated as a person in their next life, and can taste what it's like to be a person again. However, some people have done great evil and it brewed disaster, so they must pay a terrible price for it for several lifetimes. They must keep making up for it and suffer hardship in every life. If they do not make up for it all in this life, there is still the next life, and it's not known how many lives it will take them to make up for it all. This is the result. When some people fail in spreading the gospel, they refuse to resign themselves to it and say, "I never say die. I did not convert anyone this time. I failed. Next time, I cannot fail. I absolutely must be a witness for God and be a male child who overcomes." It is good that people have this resolve, but what about the fact they are capable of saying the words, "Never say die"? What disposition is this? Isn't this the disposition of the archangel? Did God make them testify in this way? Do they understand the truth? Is what they are doing testifying for God? What they are doing is humiliating God. What kind of people would you say these are? They are blockheads. They do not understand the truth, yet they say they testify for God. It would be good enough if they didn't humiliate God. What kind of words are "never say die"? What do these words mean? They mean to never admit failure. In actuality, these people have failed, but they think that by not admitting failure, they have achieved mental victory. Non-believers all have high regard for the sort of mentality where people continue to fight after multiple failures and get increasingly courageous the more setbacks they face. If you used to have this sort of mentality and relied on this sort of mentality to fight to achieve a goal, then isn't it disgraceful? Which aspects of people's corrupt disposition do the words "never say die" mainly display? Which aspects of people's essence can these words represent? Aren't people like this, who would rather die than surrender, and who would die before they admit defeat, arrogant and lacking in reason? The fact that people can be arrogant to this degree and would rather die than admit defeat is not just a problem of lacking reason. They are also somewhat lacking in smarts, like desperados. Some people say, "Is this because they are young and reckless?" There is a connection. There is a popular saying in society, "You've got to put everything on the line to win." This is representative of young people's mentality of putting everything on the line, like angry youth. If you are willing to risk your life, you can accomplish anything. This is the "never say die" mentality. Do elderly people have this sort of spirit? They do too. Look, political circles are practically all made up of adults and seniors. The rivalry is fierce. People have corrupt dispositions and live according to their corrupt dispositions. They all have this sort of mentality to a greater or lesser extent. This doesn't have a lot to do with whether they are old or young. but it is directly connected to their disposition. If you believe in God and understand the truth, you will see this matter clearly and know that this sort of mentality is not in line with the truth principles and that it is a corrupt disposition. If you do not understand the truth, you will not be able to see this matter clearly, and you will think, "It is good to have a will to fight. It is proper." How can people live if they don't have a bit of a will to fight? If they don't have a bit of a will to fight, they will not have any spirit left in them to live on. Then, what meaning is there to living? They resign themselves to every unfavorable situation. How weak and cowardly is that? People all think they must fight for dignity as long as they're alive. How do they fight for dignity? By putting emphasis on the word fight. No matter what situation they encounter, they try to achieve their goals via fighting. The mentality of never saying die has its origins in the word fight. The thing atheists revere the most is a fighting spirit. They fight with heaven. They fight with earth. They fight with other people. This is the thing that makes them happiest. They think that the more capable of fighting a person is, the more heroic they are. Heroes are full of the will to fight. This is where the mentality of never saying die arose. This is the core of fighting. All sorts of satanic demons have never accepted the truth. So what is it they live according to? They live according to the satanic philosophy of fighting. Every day they live, they fight. No matter what they do, they always try to achieve victory by fighting and flaunt their victory. They try to fight for dignity in everything they do. Can they achieve it? What exactly are they competing for and fighting for? All their fighting is for fame, gain, and status. All their fighting is for their own self-interest. Why are they fighting? It is in order to play the hero and be named an elite. However, their fighting must end in death, and they must be punished. There is no question about this. Wherever there are Satans and demons, there is fighting. When they are finally destroyed, the fighting will end too. This will be the outcome of Satans and demons. Should the mentality of having a never say die will to fight be cultivated and promoted?
No.
Then, how should people approach it? People should discern it, condemn it, and abandon it. This phrase is not the truth, and it is not a criterion that people should observe, let alone a requirement God has for humankind. It has no connection to God's words, and no connection to God's requirements for people. What does God require of people? God does not need you to have a never say die will to fight. What God needs is for people to understand their own corrupt essence, know what sort of person they are, what type of person they are, what they lack, whether their caliber is high or low, what their comprehension ability is, whether they are someone who truly loves God, and whether they are someone who loves the truth. God needs you to accurately understand yourself in these ways. Then do what you can according to your own stature and according to the caliber you possess, as best you can. Does this contain the meaning of fighting? You don't need to fight. Some people say, "Can't I fight with my corrupt disposition?" Can your corrupt disposition be overcome by fighting? Can it be changed by fighting? No, it can't be changed. Some people say, "Can I fight with Satan's evil forces? Can I fight with antichrists? Can I fight with evil people, people with wicked dispositions, and people who cause disruptions and disturbances?" This is certainly not okay. Why isn't it okay? Fighting in and of itself is not practicing the truth. At what time did God's word say, "Fight antichrists, fight Pharisees, fight hypocrites," or "Fight your corrupt disposition"? Did God say these things?
No.
By contrast, in society, the satanic world has fights against landlords, fights against those who hold power, and fights against intellectuals, as well as fights between the masses, cockfights, dogfights, bullfights, and so on. In any case, none of these are good things. Fighting is a tactic through which Satan harms people and brings calamity upon living things. It does not let humankind coexist peacefully. Rather, it creates divergences between people and hatred between people. Then it makes people fight among themselves and slaughter each other while it watches the entertainment and ruckus from the sidelines. As this is satanic behavior, if some behavior, phenomena, or matters arise in the church and in God's house which have to do with fighting, how would you view these things? Would you stick your thumbs up in support and approval, or put a stop to it? You should put a stop to it. Explain things to them clearly, make them understand, and tell them that they must do things according to the truth, do things in line with the principles, and act in complete alignment with God's words. You can also prune them, but pruning, reprimanding, and even disciplining them is not fighting. What does fighting refer to? Fighting is disputing what is and isn't true about a matter with other people out of impetuousness, arguing with people and being unreasonable, throwing a tantrum, even using secret schemes and deceitful plots, or using man's tactics, methods, and means to beat a person into submission, defeat them, and repeatedly torment them until they capitulate. This is called fighting. Fighting is purely a kind of impetuous behavior and action, and it is also purely a satanic kind of behavior, method, and means of doing things. It has nothing to do with the truth. Some people say, "How is it wrong when God's chosen people rise up and fight with people like false leaders, antichrists, Pharisees, and evil people? Isn't it a good thing to fight with them until they capitulate or are cleared out? Then won't God's house be calm? Then won't the brothers and sisters be able to go about their church life peacefully? Why are we not allowed to fight these people? Is it right to fight these people? First of all, one thing is for certain, and that is that fighting is wrong. Why is it wrong? God punishes and condemns evil people, so what does it matter if people fight with them? How is it wrong when people humiliate them, come down on them and torment them when they have nothing better to do, yell at them, pin them down on the ground, and criticize them? God sets forth administrative decrees, and in those decrees there are no terms that pertain to fighting. God only stipulates administrative decrees, within which there are methods and principles for handling every sort of person. The decrees tell people which type of people should be expelled, which type of people should be cleared out, which type of people should be replaced, which type of people should be cultivated, which type of people should be used, which type of people should not be used, which type of people can be saved, and which type of people cannot be saved. God only tells people principles. Therefore, as people, how should you interpret these words of God? All of these words of God are the truth. What is the truth? It is that when God does anything or handles any type of person, even if they are an evil person who has done evil things, causing extreme loss to the work and interests of God's house, God will still use His methods to handle them. He absolutely will not use any satanic or impetuous methods to handle them. What is this called? This is called treating people fairly. Is there fighting contained within this fairness? No. Is this the truth? No matter how impetuous, how satanic, and how evil this person is, we take God's words as the highest instruction and as accurate principles to use to handle them. We do not denounce them or gang up on them out of impetuousness. We absolutely do not do that sort of thing. This is what is called treating people fairly, and these are the principles that God gave to people. In the Eastern world, there is the definite phrase, a never say die will to fight. In the Western world, there could be a phrase with the same meaning. So long as they have been corrupted by Satan and live under the power of Satan, every person has a satanic disposition, is particularly arrogant and self-righteous, and yields to no one. When they are propelled by this sort of disposition, a never-say-die mentality and way of thinking will certainly arise in people. People all see this sort of thinking and mentality that humankind promulgates as proper, positive, and as something which is sufficient to support people as they continue to go along their way and continue living. No matter how proper they see this so-called mentality and thinking as being, and how proper they say it is, we all must have discernment toward it. Throughout all of humankind, there is not a single race in which the truth holds power. No matter how high, ancient, or mysterious the ideas or traditional culture a race has produced, or the education that has been received, or the knowledge it possesses, one thing is for sure: none of these things are the truth, or bear any relation to the truth. Some people say, some of the morals, or the notions for measuring right and wrong, correct and incorrect, black and white, contained within traditional culture seem pretty close to the truth. The fact that they sound close to the truth does not signify that they are close to it in meaning. Corrupt mankind's sayings derive from Satan. They are never the truth, whereas only God's words are the truth. Thus, no matter how close some of mankind's words may seem to God's words, they are not the truth and cannot become the truth. This is beyond doubt. They are close in wording and expression only, but in fact, these traditional notions are incompatible with the truths of God's words. Although there may be some closeness in the literal sense of these words, they do not share the same source. The words of God come from the Creator, whereas the words, ideas, and views of traditional culture come from Satan and the demons. Some people say, the ideas, views, and famous sayings of traditional culture are universally acknowledged as positive. Even if they are lies and fallacies, can they become the truth if people uphold them for several hundred, several thousand years? Absolutely not. Such a viewpoint is as ridiculous as saying apes evolved into men. Traditional culture will never become the truth. Culture is culture, and no matter how noble it is still merely something relatively positive produced by corrupt mankind. But being positive is not equivalent to being the truth. Being positive does not make it a criterion. It is merely relatively positive, and nothing more. So is it now clear to us whether, behind this positivity, the impact of traditional culture on mankind is good or bad? Without a doubt, it has a bad and negative impact on mankind. Today, we dissected the saying, "Neither doubt those you employ, nor employ those you doubt." This is a sort of philosophy for worldly dealings. We also dissected the famous idiom with a historical background, sleeping on brushwood and licking gall. Aren't these two phrases alone already enough to give you a new understanding of humankind's traditional culture and philosophies for worldly dealings? What exactly is the essence of traditional culture and philosophies for worldly dealings? First, you can be certain that these things are absolutely not positive. They arise out of people's corrupt dispositions. Satan is their source. What do they bring to humankind? They mislead, they corrupt, and they bind and constrain humankind. This is certain and without doubt. Everything they bring to humankind is a negative influence and negative effect. So are they the truth? They are not the truth, yet humankind still consecrates them as the truth. What is going on here? People have been misled. Because people have not been saved by God, do not understand the truth, and have not heard the accurate things God has to say about phrases and matters of this kind. They ultimately accept the ideas and views that, according to their notions, they think are relatively correct, good, and which match their will. These things entered their heart first and have become dominant there. So people cling to them for hundreds and thousands of years. These satanic philosophies within traditional culture have taken root in people's hearts, misleading and influencing generation after generation of people. If you do not accept the truth, you will continue to be misled and influenced by these philosophies. Today, I dissected and fellowshipped on neither doubt those you employ, nor employ those you doubt, and sleeping on brushwood and licking gall. One of these phrases is a saying, the other is an idiom. In these two phrases, we can see what exactly the satanic culture in the entire world is. It is made up of heresies and fallacies which mislead people, corrupt people, are detrimental toward people, and harm people. If humankind abides by these philosophies of Satan, then, as they go through life, people will only get increasingly corrupt and increasingly wicked. They will slaughter each other, fight among themselves, and there will be no end to it. There will be no trust between people, no harmonious coexistence, and no mutual love. In short, what this culture brings to humankind is evil consequences. Under the guidance of these so-called ideas and mentalities, it makes humankind constantly do evil, constantly resist God, constantly challenge people's moral limits, and use any means to achieve their goals. Ultimately, they will follow the path of destruction and be punished. This is the essence of human culture. Speaking of sayings, what is your view on them? Some people might say, they are not genuine ideas that are advocated by humankind. People in high society who possess a relatively high level of insight do not abide by them. Just now, we dissected an idiom that people in high society agree with, sleeping on brushwood and licking gall. Is this idiom high level? It's not high level, but this idiom, these ideas, and these mentalities are definitely praised and advocated by everyone in every post-secondary school and in every high-level arena of human society. This is human culture. Humankind has been conditioned, numbed, and corrupted by these aspects of traditional culture. And what is the final result? That humankind is misled, restrained, and bound by traditional culture, and a kind of mentality and theory arises naturally, which humankind advocates and spreads, transmits widely, and makes people accept. Ultimately, it captures everyone's heart, makes everyone endorse this kind of mentality and idea, and everyone is corrupted by this idea. When they have been corrupted to a certain degree, people no longer have any notions about right or wrong. They no longer want to discern what is justice and what is wickedness, nor are they willing to discern what are positive things and what are negative things anymore. There even comes a day when they are unclear whether they are actually human, and there are many sick people who don't know whether they are a man or a woman. How far away from destruction is a human race such as this? How does humankind now compare to people in Noah's time? Aren't they even more wicked? They have already reached the pinnacle of wickedness, and are so wicked there are some things you are incapable of listening to. After you hear it, you are disgusted. People are all sick to a certain degree. From the outside, people's bodies look human, but the things they think in their hearts are actually not what people should be thinking. They are all sick and are incapable of turning themselves around. What do I mean they are incapable of turning themselves around? I mean that maybe 100 or 200 years ago, more people would be willing to listen to God speak and make utterances. They trusted that justice existed in this world, as well as righteousness and fairness. People were willing to accept a fact like this, and they yearned for it to be realized. Even more so, they hoped there would be a day when the Savior would come who could deliver humankind from the influence of darkness and wickedness. However, 100 or 200 years later, there are fewer and fewer people like this. How many people are there who can understand God's words? How many people are there who can accept the truth? Even if many people received God's grace, so what? The number of people who truly follow Him is getting increasingly lower. Which is to say, in the human race, there are fewer and fewer people who, after hearing God's words, are encouraged, capable of loving positive things, yearn for the light, yearn for justice, and yearn for the coming of God's kingdom, fairness and righteousness. What does this demonstrate? That Satan's philosophies, laws, ideas, and so-called mentalities have misled and corrupted the entire human race. To what extent have they been misled and corrupted? People have all accepted the fallacies and devilish sayings of Satan as the truth. They all worship Satan and follow Satan. They do not understand the words of God, the Creator. No matter what the Creator says, how much He says, and how clear and practical His words are, no one understands. No one comprehends. They are all numb and dull-witted, and their thinking and minds are mixed up. How were they mixed up? It is Satan who mixed them up. Satan thoroughly corrupted people. In today's society, there are all manner of different ideas, ideologies, and statements. People believe in whichever one they choose, and follow whichever one they choose. No one can tell them what to do, nor are they capable of telling them what to do. It is to this extent. So the fact you are able to choose to believe in God is a blessing. Today, you are able to understand what God is saying. You have a bit of the sense of conscience. You believe what God says, long for God's kingdom to come, and long to live in a kingdom of light, justice, fairness, and righteousness. Is it a rarity for you to have this sincerity? How did you get it? It is through God's protection and the Holy Spirit working in you to give you clarity that you are able to believe in God and follow Him. If God did not work in you, would you be able to be here now as a believer? Could you have changed in the way you have now? Just look. Do those non-believers still have human likeness now? You may not understand many truths right now, and in many cases your views are still exactly the same as non-believers. Whatever they think, that is what you think too. Although sometimes you don't accept some of their views, you have no discernment and have no other path to take. When the day comes When you understand the truth, you will be able to discern that their views are wrong and wicked, and your heart will be able to reject them. Then you will see their demonic faces clearly. You will see that they are the living devils, not humans. They are disguised as humans, but don't do human things. How can you tell this is the case? The words they promulgate are all especially pleasing to the ear and capable of misleading people, but what they do and carry out is extremely wicked and unsightly, and it is simply shameless and unreasonable. The so-called ideas and so-called mentalities they cling to are exceedingly wicked and reactionary, run completely contrary to God's words and the truth, and are polar opposites of God's words and the truth. Yet these people take these false reasonings and heresies as the truth and promulgate them intensely, vigorously, and publicly promoting them to mislead and corrupt humankind, so that they may cover up their various base and shameless crimes and unsightly faces. From this, you can clearly see that they are all demons, as well as beasts and unclean spirits that cannot be reasoned with. You cannot talk sense with them, and cannot speak good or true words with them. When the day comes when you can see with this degree of clarity, you will know that humankind is corrupted too deeply, that you are just as corrupted as other people, that it is only at the present time when you believe in God and understand some truths that you can live out some human likeness. Break away from the influence of devils and Satan, and discern them, hate them, and abandon them, that without God's salvation, you would be just like them. There would be no difference, and that you would be capable of any sort of evil or wicked thing. Now you are pursuing the truth, putting a lot of work and effort into the truth, putting importance on practice, and turning the truth into your own reality. When you understand the truth, can practice the truth, can live out the reality of God's words, and have real experiential testimony, your heart will be happy and at peace. Your mindset and state will be increasingly normal. Your relationship with God will get increasingly close and be increasingly normal, and your days will get increasingly better. If you do not practice the truth, always live according to satanic philosophies, and always misunderstand God and are suspicious of Him, then your heart will be increasingly distant from God. Your belief in God will be in vain, and you will gain nothing. Even if you have believed in God for many years, understand a lot of words and doctrines, and do not accept the various fallacious thoughts and views of non-believers, it is of no use. This is because you do not understand the truth and can only talk about some words and doctrines, and you still cannot practice the truth. Because those things that first entered your heart and became dominant there still have power over you. You are only able to live according to these things. No matter what you want to do, and no matter what situation befalls you, you will not be able to help yourself from being controlled by these satanic philosophies. So, if these satanic philosophies have power over your heart, you will be unable to practice the truth. Some people say, I do not practice the truth, nor do I follow Satan. Is this possible? There is no middle path. It is only by accepting the truth, understanding the truth, and then clearing out those satanic things which first entered your heart and became dominant there, that you can achieve doing things according to the truth. When the truth has power over your heart, and God's words have power over your heart, you will naturally be able to practice the truth in what you say and do. What do people treat Satan's logic and thoughts, and the mental crutches that control how people live as? Psychological nourishment? Chicken soup for the soul? Actually, these are the things that corrupt people, and if one eats them up, one will die. If people continuously accept these things and store up satanic things inside, what does it imply? That they have not yet cast off their original corrupt disposition and have proceeded to accept new corruption from Satan on top of it. This means it's over for them. It is inevitable that they cannot be saved. You should continuously discern and reject these things, while continuously casting them off, not living according to these things, and accepting God's words. There are people who say, "I will not accept these things. God's words will enter me on their own." This isn't possible. You must proactively seek the truth and accept the truth, and through the process of understanding the truth, you will naturally gain discernment over false reasonings and heresies, and will slowly let them go. This way, God's words will gradually become your principles for doing things. And when you do things, you will know which way of doing them is in line with God's intentions. You will practice the truth very naturally, and this aspect of your corrupt disposition will have changed. Do you think this is hard to do or not? It actually isn't hard. The only hard thing about it is that people don't put it into practice. Some people think, "This is really hard, harder than climbing to the heavens. Isn't this driving a duck onto a perch? Isn't this putting me in a difficult position?" Is that the case? No, it's not the case. You must approach these matters correctly and have correct discernment over these matters. Today, I have spent such a long time fellowshipping and dissecting just a few satanic fallacies. But are these few things the only things that are stored up inside of people? There are far more than these. Later, I will fellowship on these topics in succession. Before, I hadn't fellowshipped on this aspect. So, did you ever ponder these topics yourselves? You didn't. If you ponder them, would you get some results? If you had been able to put some effort into the truth, you would have had some discernment over satanic fallacies. You would not be completely ignorant like you are now. Does my fellowship on these topics today seem sudden? Is there anyone who says, "Aren't we fellowshipping about discerning antichrists?" How come we're suddenly fellowshipping on these topics? These matters all have to do with Satan's corrupt disposition. These matters also all have to do with people discerning Satan's corrupt disposition, and are beneficial to people's ability to accurately understand the truth. At the very least, after fellowshipping, people will know. It turns out that this great phrase is not the truth. From this point on, fallacies such as sleeping on brushwood and licking gall, and neither doubt those you employ, nor employ those you doubt, might be cleared out of your heart. There might be some of you who can't clear them out at the moment, but at least you know these phrases are not the truth. And the next time you hear someone say these phrases, you will know that the phrases are misleading, and you won't accept them. Although your heart feels the phrases are somewhat right, and that they are still good things to do, you also think, God said these phrases are not the truth. I cannot act according to them. Isn't this of benefit to you? What is my goal in saying these things? Why am I dissecting these phrases like this? Believers always say, we must practice the truth. All of God's words are the truth. All of God's words are positive things and are what we should be practicing. One day you are pruned, and the phrases sleeping on brushwood and licking gall, and when heaven is about to confer great responsibility on a person, their heart must first experience pain surface in your heart. Are these the truth? Isn't that a joke? If you were asked to bear witness to God, how would you do so? You say, believers must endure humiliation and bear a heavy burden, sleep on brushwood and lick gall, and must have a never-say-die will to fight and mentality. Is this bearing witness to God? By treating satanic logic as God's words and the truth and bearing witness to it, not only have you not borne witness to God properly, but you have become a laughingstock for Satan and have humiliated God. What is this you are doing? If God were to condemn you for this, you would think it unjust and say, I am ignorant. I don't understand. God never fellowshipped with me about this. If He does not condemn you, but the nature of your actions is very severe, what should God do about it? Put you to one side? Nothing needs to be done. As for me, I will just make you understand as much as possible, and make you know as much as possible. According to your level of comprehension, and according to what I am able to tell you, what exactly the truth is, whether the phrases you think are good and right are connected to the truth, and whether they are the truth. I must make you understand these things. If after you know these things, you still think the same way, and are still just as insistent, then God will not put you to one side, nor will He ignore you. You deserve to be condemned, and God will act. Why will God do this? If you act in this way while not understanding these things, then God will treat this as you being foolish and ignorant. But if you do know these things and still act in this way, then you are knowingly doing wrong, and God must handle this according to the principles.